own estate. Know of my pops, so he'll say, well done, like I like my steak. So guarantee I'm...
Welcome back to another episode of the Off-Season Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Hall. I have my other host here, FAOVA. Lot to discuss after week 3. A lot of game winners, a lot of things happening, a lot of teams played, and there was a lot of action going on Friday night. I think we was on the phone Friday night, and we was discussing how, all right, the season has officially arrived because of everything that took place. Like, so many videos that got sent in for like game winners, like the Sandburg game winner that we're going to talk about, Oakland, St. Lawrence, but then a lot of teams played that performed well. I know Mount Carmel played. It was a somewhat high scoring game with Mount Carmel being victorious, and then St. Rita and Brother Rice squared off. Brother Rice was victorious in that game, as well as Loyola Academy really showing, why they're Loyola Academy. But a lot of things to get into. F.A., how you feeling?
Feel good, man. Hey, like you said, the football season here. I feel like the first 2 weeks is the warm-up, but this week felt like, all right, the season is here now. You got game winners, game-winning field goals, touchdowns, trick plays, upsets. Like, it really felt like, all right, it's time now. You know what I mean? So, yeah, hey, it's football season, bro.
Yeah, the season's in full swing, man. Like, I know first week was every bit of, all right, football is back. Second week was probably, to me personally, it was just a little underwhelming. It was just a lot of blowouts. But week 3, that's when we got on the phone like right after the games ended, and we were like, all right, yeah, football. Now we here. Like, we are here. Like, some teams started off 3-0. Some teams are still winless. But a lot happened on Friday, and the first one I want to get into is the game winner from Sandburg, them facing off against Hinsdale Central. We was keeping up with this.
Central.
I'm sorry, my bad. Naperville Central, Hinsdale Central, Naperville Central, my bad. Naperville Central, and that was a score that we was monitoring for a while because I think for the longest it was like 2-3.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
with Naperville.
It was 2-0.
It was 2-0.
Yeah, and then it was, I think by the half it was 2-3. And then it just progressed into 5-3. That's the game winner. So
yeah. So, and that's a very, like, that's a soccer score right there. Like 5-3.
I couldn't believe it because I was checking in and out periodically, like just looking at the game because it was streaming online. So I was trying to just keep up with it, and I'm like, to start off, I'm like 2-0. I'm like, all right, let's see where this goes. You know what I mean? So I was interested to see how that game was going to end, and then we checked back in towards the end of it, and we saw that they won 5-3, and I'm like, let me go back and see what happened. So it was a game-winning, field goal. I'm like, man, that's a crazy way to win it. You know what I mean? And a 39-yarder, that's a pretty good kick to win the game. You know what I mean? So.
Yep, Sandburg won off of a late game field goal by Drew Drzonik off of a 39-yarder that you mentioned. We got a bunch of those videos on our socials, so if you want to check it out, look at it. But that was a very great defensive game overall. I mean, 5-3, that's a very low-scoring game with one of the scores being from I would have to assume a safety, right? Well, actually, it is a safety. Can't assume anything there, but Sandburg starts off 3-0 for the first time since 2012? I think we looked at it. Yeah. 2012, where they started off 4-0 that season with their first loss being to Lincoln Way East. But Sandburg is rolling, bro.
Yeah, and they did it against a great Naperville team. A team that went to the semifinals last year. They only lost to York by 5 points.
Off that crazy play from York, by the way. That one they just ran into the back of the end zone. That video that went viral.
Yep. So that's a great team to beat, a great 8A team. So I mean, it's looking good for Sandburg going into the rest of the season because obviously we stated like, man, they have the talent to win out, and obviously they'll have to see Lincoln Way East at the end of the season. But not only would they maybe have to see them at the end of the season, but it's a chance in postseason you will have to see them again at some point. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be interesting for them. But I know that they're still staying humble over there at Sandburg. Coach Murphy and the guys, they're just one game at a time. I know we're putting a big expectation on them just because we're fans of Sandburg, fans of Coach Murphy and everything he's doing. But yeah, they still have to play these games and still have to, come out with these wins. So yeah, we can project them making it, going undefeated until the end of the season to face face Lincoln Way East, but they still had a lot of games to play. But they're looking good defensively, playing Richards and holding them out after Richards scored 51 points on Creek. That shows you what type of defense Sandburg has. Like, they're holding these teams to little to no points. So I mean that. Hey, they can do it. You know, they can make a run. They're in their run right now. They're in their run. So
Yeah, they're starting off hot, and they, like I said, the last game it was just a good defensive performance. Even Coach Murphy mentioned that the defense made some big stands, but they starting off 3-0. Beat Andrew 31-9, beat Richards 27-7, and just got this victory against Naperville Central 5-3. And they have Mateo Valley next week. And then they're going to be playing they still got some good games that, could be good ones, conference games, like against Homewood, Flossmoor, and look, they got Lockport, week 7 of the season, and then they play Lincoln Way East at the end of the season. So they could potentially, make a good run this season, and then make a great run in the playoffs. And like you said, could see some heavy hitters in the playoffs. So we'll see though. But Sandburg is one of the teams that, like I said last week, we went to their summer camp tour. So I wouldn't say I knew that they would be good, but something felt like, all right, they got something good going on there. Yeah. Coach Murphy mentioned they got a lot of returning players, right? But then the cerebral aspect that we talked about too of the game was something that we commended them for, because that was just something that we saw that a lot of other teams weren't doing. And I'm really riding with them this season, man. Sandburg is going to be my public school team that I want to ride with. Like last year, I think it was Richards probably for the most part, but I think Sandburg, I want them to be that suburban team that we ride with the whole season, and we follow that storyline and see how they perform this season. But Sandburg starting off 3-0, they are hot. Still a lot more work to do. Still very early in the season, we know. But they rolling, and they're going to keep rolling. Next team that we want to talk about that had another late game score to win the game was between Oaklawn and Shepherd. Oaklawn won over Shepherd 28-27 with a crazy play from a pitch pass touchdown to senior Luke Mahoney from running back or fullback senior Alex Soto to put Oaklawn up with under a minute left in the game, starting their season off 3-0, man. That was another video that's on our page as well if you want to check it out. Look at it. But a lot of game winners. This is another one that was amazing to see. South Suburban teams. This is our conference that we grew up in. This is our conference that we played in. So, and they had a great win over Shepherd, and Oaklawn is starting off pretty hot this season too. What you think about Oaklawn?
Yeah, and Oaklawn is one of those teams that were reaching out a lot. Some of their players were reaching out to us a lot over the summer saying, hey, the culture is changing over here at Oaklawn. Like, we're going to be good this year. And we like, yeah, okay, all right, but it's one of those things where you just got to show it. You got to prove it. Like, everybody says that. Everybody hits our DMs like, hey, you need to come here, watch out for us, do this, do that. But at the end of the day, we just want to see the results on the field. And Oaklawn is definitely showing up in 3-0. So now y'all sparking our interest, and it's like, okay, let's look over and see who Oaklawn is playing next and what type of run they're going to go on. So, yeah, Oaklawn, I mean, hey, keep rolling, man. Keep rolling. We definitely tuned in now and, keep making noise, and we'll definitely be looking to get out and see you guys play because we love the SSC. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like, that's a big-time win and a big-time play right there. You can't draw it up no better. You know what I mean?
Draw it up no better. Yeah, exactly. And to do it late in the game, too. Like, man, I don't know. That's competing. So that's something you really can't teach. Like, I saw a video, it's like certain things that's just as a coach you can't teach, and being able to play in tough games like that and being able to compete at the end of the game and really show up when you need it. That's something that's just, you either have it or you don't. Those instincts, you either have it or you don't. But start off their season 3-0. That's a team we're paying attention to now. Like we said last episode. It's one thing to tell us to pull up and pay attention to a certain team, but once you actually perform on the field and you're showing that this is the reason why you should be paying attention to us, that's what we love to see. And I feel like, Oaklawn being from the SSC, obviously we're going to be paying closer attention to them now. And they just got a great win over Shepherd, 28-7, late game. I love to see those good games, man. Some standout performers also from Oaklawn. Thank you from the coach for providing us with a few of these stats. But we have junior Jaden Schlosser with 13 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown. Then we also have Alex Soto with 6 carries for 46 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 pass for 28 yards for a touchdown to Luke Mahoney. Then we also have sophomore Kamari Polk with 5 rushes for 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 receptions for 47 yards. And then we have sophomore Danny Strelo, 3 passes for 161 yards and 1 touchdown. So they got a lot of young guys doing it as well.
Yeah.
So Oakland is definitely a team we'll be paying attention to. Next team I want to mention, and these are all game winners, by the way, if you all didn't realize. These are all of the game winners that happened that came to our attention this past weekend. Another one is between St. Lawrence and Niles Notre Dame. St. Lawrence beat Niles Notre Dame on a 2-point conversion to start St. Lawrence off 3-0. How are we feeling about this? I think this is the second 2-point conversion win that we saw this season so far that we've been covering at least.
Yeah.
But St. Lawrence did it this past weekend over Niles Notre Dame, starting off 3-0. St. Lawrence.
Yeah, man.
And not looking bad either.
No, big time wins, 3-0, and all 3 of these teams 3-0. So had to fight for that third win, and there's nothing more you can ask for. Just finishing the game. You know what I mean? On the last play, there's nothing more you can ask for as a team. So that's a big time win for St. Lawrence, 3-0. I mean, great football being played, man.
Yep, that 2-point conversion was from quarterback Jimmy McDermott to receiver Matt Williams to seal that game for them. But like I said, they starting off 3-0. A lot of teams starting off 3-0 that we just mentioned. Starting off really hot, still early in the season. Still a lot of work to be done. We know this. But like we said, based on a lot of these games, these types of games, that's made me feel like, all right, this season we're in full swing. We here. Like it's happening. And it was definitely very eventful. Had our social media going crazy this past weekend. So but to these teams keep balling, starting off 3-0 is not easy. As you can tell, these games weren't easy for them to win, but still a lot more work to be done by these teams. Some teams that I also want to mention that are off to a hot start. Fenwick is one team. We covered them one time last year with them playing Brother Rice in the first round, but they're off to a hot start. They just beat Joliet Catholic 43-26, and they also beat Oak Park River Forest 35-0 and DePaul College Prep 40-14 to start off 3-0. Joliet Catholic looks like they're starting off 0-3.
Yeah.
But still a lot of season left. I think one year, was it Nazareth or somebody, started off like with 4 losses and then they made a run and ended up winning the state championship. So, I mean, still a lot more season left to go for JCA, but Fenwick is rolling. I mean, 118 points in 3 games. They do have a big test against Montini Catholic next week, who is also 3-0. But Montini Catholic just beat Marist in a close one, 28-21. But Fenwick is rolling. Montini Catholic, Israel Abrams, he's playing very well. So that should be a good game and matchup between those two teams. What you think?
Yeah, I think Fenwick is one of those teams that we definitely should be looking out for now. Like, they're making noise and beating great teams. JC obviously is a good team. They beat DePaul College Prep, who won a state championship last year. JC was in the state championship last year. Defensively, they're playing phenomenal, putting up 118 points. So offensively, they're firing. We did an article on, or we did like a write-up on Jake and Tommy Thies, the brothers there, and they're both balling, you know what I'm saying, on both sides of the ball. So I mean, Fenwick is just one of those teams where they're not going to play the Mont Carmels, they're not going to play the Brother Rices or Loyolas, you know what I mean, but they're still making those runs. And I think next week with Montini, how good Montini is playing, and Montini is also undefeated as well,
and they're a reigning state champion.
Reigning state champion. So if Fenwick can get a big win over Montini, like, that's like, okay, now they should be on that bubble of now being a top team in the state of Illinois. Like, it's going to be undeniable. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that Fenwick game versus Montini. But I definitely think Fenwick is a team that everybody should have on their radar now, because off to a hot start, 3-0. Yeah, I think Fenwick is a team to watch for sure. That's going to be on that bubble for top teams in the state.
Yeah, like you said, though, they have a very good test against Montini Catholic, who's also playing well, also off to a 3-0 start. Montini Catholic has a great quarterback in Israel Abrams. And they just beat Marist. Marist is off to an 0-3 start. They're off to a pretty tough start, but as I've been saying this whole episode, a lot of season left, a lot more work to be done, and you can climb back and get it together and still have a late season run as well to make it into the playoffs. Another team I want to mention, another team from the South Suburban Conference. We love the South Suburban Conference, if you couldn't tell already. Oak Forest has been absolutely dominant to start this season, man. They started off 3-0. We're talking about a lot of teams that started off 3-0.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of these teams are off to a good start, but Oak Forest is off to a good start in the South Suburban Conference. They have scored 125 points and only given up 35. They just beat our alma mater, TF South, 42-7. They will be playing TF North next week, who just had a huge 1-point victory over Hillcrest. TF North's only loss this season is to Bradley, but how we feeling about, Oak Forest's performance this season and how they gonna match up against TF North next week?
I think it's gonna be a good game next week. TF North obviously just beat Hillcrest by 1 point last week, and they're looking like a team that's prime. They've been on the up, since Coach Murph arrived, and he's really turned the program around. I mean, Coach Piggs. I'm sorry, since Coach Piggs arrived, they've really been on the up. So I think that's going to be a good SSC battle, and it'll probably determine who's at the top of that of the standings in that conference. I think Oak Forest has a good shot. I mean, 125 points. One of those teams that are obviously has a high power offense, kind of like the Fenwicks of the world, just scoring really high powered and not giving up a lot of points, only 35 points given up. So I think that they're in a good position, and that's going to be a really good game. So it'll be a test. It's going to be a test for North for sure.
Yeah, definitely a test for North. Definitely a test probably for Oak Forest as well. I mean, unfortunately they did beat TF South 42-7, but that was something we spoke about beginning of the season with TF South, new coach and new philosophy, new system. We knew this was probably going to be a rebuild year for them. Yeah. I mean, losing 42-7, I think they had a lopsided victory, a loss against Lane Tech last week as well. But TF South, I mean, it's going to be a rebuild year. Still our guys, still love our alma mater, but some other teams in the SSC are rolling. And I'm happy to just see that, some teams are starting off hot in the South Suburban Conference. One team I want to talk about next, it's a team we've actually covered last week, or we talked about last week, and a team that is also rolling, Bradley-Bourbonnais, off to a hot start. They're 3-0. They also put up big numbers, scoring 112 and only allowing 12 points. How are we feeling about Bradley-Bourbonnais?
Yeah, another one of those teams that didn't get a lot of coverage last year, and they had a run last year. You know what I mean? So, they're playing how they should be playing, how they said that they would play when they messaged us and saying how good they were last year, having that loss to Lincoln Way Central in the quarterfinals, and they're looking like they're ready to return and get further than they did last year. Make a state final appearance. Like, that's what it's looking like for them, being 3-0, and another team high powered, 112 points through 3 games and only allowing 12. So they as I mentioned last episode, the bad boys defense is what they call it, and they living up to that name, making key stops. So they have everything that they need offensively to continue this run. Obviously they have the defense, so the only thing stopping them is them, and we're still waiting on that Lincoln Way Central game to happen. I believe week 6 or 7 is supposed to be happening, but kind of similar to who we speak about, kind of similar to Sandburg, where I think for the rest of their schedule, they probably can get through, and they have one real test left out there, which is Lincoln Way Central. And
Lincoln Way West. They have
Lincoln Way
West. Yep.
Yeah, so but if they can win...
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was saying they play Lincoln Way Central week 6, and then they play Lincoln Way West 2 weeks after that in week 8. So they still got 2 big tests to play, but they are rolling, and we are paying attention, and they are playing well. The bad boys defense, like you said, they lived up to it. They beat TF North 42-0, beat Creek Monique 41-6, and they just beat Wambanzi Valley 35-6. So they've only given up 12 points. That's saying something about their defense. Obviously, I'm a defensive guy. I want to bring up the question: Can their defense win them or make them go on a long run this season?
I think
I ain't gonna
it's
say
I
win
think
a
it's
state. I
both.
would say even win them a state championship.
I think
Are we
it's
gonna say
both
that?
because so what you'll see in football, like the defense will break if there's no offensive presence. It's like very, very difficult for a defense to just hold up and they have the pressure on them the whole game. You know what I mean? So it's like the offense has to relieve some of that pressure. And offensively, Bradley, 112 points scoring, that makes it easier for the defense because they're putting pressure on the other side of the ball. So I think it's just a beautiful mesh, you know what I mean, of the offense and defense is what's going to allow them to get there. But if their offense and defense plays like this for the duration of the season, they're going to go because it's going to be extremely difficult to beat a team that's able to put up 30 plus points a game and hold you to 6 or 12 points. Like you can't beat a team that way. That's too good, you know. So ideally, like if they can continue this up, it's going to be very difficult to beat them. Like for anybody, I don't care who you are. You know what I mean? So, but we'll see. Lincoln Way West, Lincoln Way Central are the big games for them, and if they complete both of those, I can see them making it to the state championship. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So.
I want to bring something up on that light. So Bradley-Bourbonnais, as far as in the Associated Press's IHSA football Class 7A rankings, this is not the updated rankings. They currently sit at number 8. Lincoln Way Central is sitting at number 7. Lincoln Way West is sitting below Bradley-Bourbonnais at number 9. And then we have, the likes of Brother Rice, Downers Grove North, St. Charles North, St. Rita, Batavia, Normal Community, all ranked in the top 10 for Class 7A. I like their chances in 7A. I'll be honest. 7A is going to be my favorite class to follow this year just because of how, quote unquote, wide open it is, just because of Mount Carmel being in 8A. Every bit of, if they keep playing the way that they plan, like we said, a lot of season left to go, but they keep playing the way that they're playing and they really going to be battle tested against teams that they could potentially see in the playoffs again, like a Lincoln Way Central, Lincoln Way West. They already scary with the Bad Boys defense, and they could be even scarier if they keep this trend going. But off to a hot start, 3-0, and we're going to keep watching them throughout the whole season. One game want to mention, or I guess more games we want to mention, but the next game we want to mention, Brother Rice versus St. Rita. Brother Rice beat St. Rita 28-10. I already told you how I feel about Brother Rice. I already made my prediction last week of how I felt who will win this game. You felt St. Rita would probably win this game. But Brother Rice is also off to a hot start, 3-0. They have a very, very, very dominant defense.
A Division One defense.
Yeah, 100%. And that was, and when I said that Brother Rice was my favorite to win 7A, it wasn't because of their offense. Although their offense, when the game that I went to against Marist, their offense played pretty well. But the thing that I noticed immediately, I'm talking about off the rip, was that defensive line presence and their secondary. But that defensive line presence is scary. We wasn't at the St. Rita game. We had sent somebody out to capture some footage for us. But I was at the Marist game, and the thing that I thought Brother Rice did very well was they overwhelmed Marist's offense. And it seems like with this, St. Rita only putting up 10 points, it was probably the tale of the same story. I mean, their defense probably overwhelmed St. Rita's offense. And that defense is something. That defense is something. And it's probably going to take them on a long run in the playoffs. Now, very early to say. They still got Loyola next week, which is going to be another test for them. But I think they're going to live up to it. How you be feeling about Brother Rice or St. Rita, FA?
Yeah, I mean, there was a great game from Brother Rice. You know what I mean? So, and when we keep speaking about the defensive side of the ball for Brother Rice, and in high school football at least, two of the hardest positions to fill and be elite at is the offense and defensive line. Like most schools are gonna have 1-2 defensive linemen or offensive linemen that are good, really one that could be elite. But you got Brother Rice, you have 4 defensive linemen who are elite. You know what I mean? And are making plays and making it difficult. So when the offensive line is kind of collapsing and you can't get a run game going, the quarterback is being pressured, he panics. It's just hard to get a flow and a rhythm offensively. And I think that's where Brother Rice is going to stand out, having that front that's just super dominant. And that's the story of even college and the NFL. When you get dominant trench players, that probably translate to your team being very well. So it's gonna be hard for teams to figure out how to game plan against Brother Rice because they're so dominant defensively. And then on top of that, you have offensive players. You have C.J. Gray, who threw for two touchdown passes, a 69-yarder to Jalen Green, and then a 26-yarder to his brother Jovan Green. Like they are, like they just have the offensive weapons and the development in the quarterback. That's one thing that you mentioned with C.J. is like last year you went to the Fenwick game, and now this year this is a completely different guy taking snaps. So it's like one of those things with Bradley. You have both sides of the ball here. It's not just the defense and the offense is not efficient at all. The offense is just as good. So, I mean, Brother Rice they looked the part. And I know they're going to go on a run. St. Rita, they're playing good teams. They play Brother Rice. They play Mount Carmel. I mean, we have to take that also into consideration. Like, they're not
100%.
Playing bums. They're playing two of the top teams in the state of Illinois.
They started off their season playing Catholic League teams.
Yeah, so
you know
I mean,
so
I still like their chances of them even
100%.
being battle tested, and they still got a lot of opportunity to grow and get better and make their run. So I'm by no means counting St. Rita out, but I mean you're
Absolutely
playing.
Not.
You played Marist the first game, cool, but playing BR and Mount Carmel back to back, that's tough. That's a tough schedule. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see how they fare going forward. Who do they play next?
Let me look it up real quick because I was just actually about to pull it up. Okay. But like you mentioned, just to tag along with what you said, they're being battle tested really, really early. They've been battle tested every week since the season has started, and they started off 1-2. But that doesn't mean that St. Rita's a bad team. They just play very, very good teams. Man. Next week they play St. Francis. I think they can get a dub against St. Francis. I think they actually will get a dub against St. Francis. But starting off, 1-2, that's not bad. Still a lot season left to go, but they're not playing no bombs. They're not losing to, a team that's from out of nowhere that hasn't won the state championship ever. You know what I mean? They playing teams that are essentially the best conference in Illinois for football, if you ask me. So I wouldn't be surprised. If down the line in the playoffs, St. Rita and Brother Rice somehow, some way, shape, or form meet up again. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they play each other again. I think St. Rita played Mount Carmel in the playoffs last year, right?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure they played each other in the regular season. Let me look that up real quick.
Last year?
Yeah. So it's like, I'm pretty sure they could potentially see each other again. And will it be a different story? Who knows? But that's just to let you know that is a lot more season left to be played. And it's very early. And I still think St. Rita is one of the favorites to win 7A as well. Yeah. I just, my favorite is Brother Rice. So,
for sure.
But they do play St. Francis next week. St. Francis, beat Kenwood in week 1, but did just lose last week to Loyola. You had them winning against Loyola.
Yeah.
Loyola has something to say about that.
Definitely. Yeah.
But,
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
That's coming up. But before we move on from Brother Rice, we've been speaking about the defensive line, and I actually want to talk about Michael Fitzgerald. So obviously you got Braden Parks, you got King Liggins, you got Cameron McGee, all great defensive line players, edge players, so now Michael Fitzgerald's kind of making a name for himself. He's kind of an undersized defensive lineman, but he kind of is a hybrid between playing inside and outside linebacker, but also plays a little bit of edge. But he has 6 tackles against St. Rita. He had a pressure that led into an interception. And he's one of those guys that's kind of making a name for himself. And their coach even said, like, he's a guy that should be getting offers. Like all of these other, defensive guys are getting these big time offers. He's definitely one of those guys that should be getting offers. So he currently has a Division 3 offer, like some Division 3s, but he's looking to really push and get some of those, higher level offers, which I know he can. But the interesting thing is he's the youngest of 4 brothers that also played at Brother Rice. And I know we're going to get into this with Mount Carmel, but it's kind of like this is why these schools are so well for so long, because they have a history and a lineage of players who come and play. It's legacy football at this point, and it's hard to compete with legacy. So we'll get more into that, but it's just one of those other examples of like, man, 4 brothers played here, and he's also playing here.
I want to get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned this in depth, but I talked to you about a lot. My brothers actually went to Brother Rice, my oldest two brothers. And I used to go to Brother Rice games all the time as a kid. I'm talking Brother Rice games used to be on Friday. It used to get me prepared for my actual youth football games on Saturday. That used to bring the energy out of me going to Brother Rice games. Now, I always thought, because we were living in the city at the time, I always thought that I was going to grow up and go to Brother Rice. Like, literally, like, my oldest brother went to Brother Rice. My second oldest brother went to Brother Rice. I'm thinking, like, all right, I probably am going to go to Brother Rice as well. Me and my siblings, me and my older brother, is probably going to go to Brother Rice. Then ended up going to TF South because we moved to Lansing. But I can understand the lineage part of, like, all right, my brother played here, and my younger brother going to play here, and then my kids going to play here later on. Like, Mount Carmel is doing that very well, and we'll get to that later with Mount Carmel. But it seems like Brother Rice has that same type of thing going on a little bit as well, as you just mentioned. And that is how you keep a program consistently good. You know what I mean? Like, keeping a program consistently good, you're getting not only one player to buy in, but you're getting their family to buy in? What? That's crazy, man. And that's something that that's something I love to see. Just as I mentioned, like, I have a ultimate bias against Brother Rice just because my brothers went there, but that's why I'm really riding with them this season. But I think, they got some great things going on, and it's evident with, a couple brothers playing with each other, and we'll definitely see how they'll fare this season, with everything that they got going on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we gonna continue to monitor the run, Brother Rice. I mean, you called it. Hey, it's documented. You called it BR. So we gonna see. But
I would like to be proven wrong too, though, at the same time. So if St. Rita plays Brother Rice later on, like, let's say they can only play again in the playoffs, but they play again, prove me wrong, man. Like, and like I said, like, I stand on what I said. I think Brother Rice is my favorite to win 7A this year, but I'm always open to be proven wrong. The idea of this is me saying that somebody's listening to this and say, no, I don't like that you said that. It's us. Yes, if you feel like it's you and it's your team, then prove it on the field and, prove me wrong. And we'll have something else to talk about. But like I said, Brother Rice is my favorite to win 7A. They on a 3-0 start. Defense looks good. Offense looks good as well. And we'll see how they face off against Loyola next week. So
yeah, that's a big one. That's a big game.
That's gonna be a big game, and we're probably gonna talk about that a little bit more as we continue down. But next game we want to talk about Mount Carmel versus Nazareth Academy. Mount Carmel won that game 42-23. We also have the full game highlights of that on our YouTube. Check it out. Shout out Keeler Captures for capturing that for us. No pun intended. But how we feeling about Mount Carmel? Obviously, we've been talking about Mount Carmel every week. They're off to a 3-0 start. To me, now they're probably the number one team, in my honest opinion, in the state of Illinois. But how you feeling about Mount Carmel?
I mean, it's pretty much the same. And last episode, I know I mentioned, like, it's no point to even continue to talk about them because we kind of know what the outcome is going to be for most of these games. Not saying that nobody can beat them, but there's a clear separation. There's a huge gap as far as the talent level that's at Mount Carmel versus everybody else, because Naz is no slouch. Now Naz has elite talent on their side as well, but I mean, I think Mount Carmel is just so well put together this year, offensively and defensively. They have stars all around the field. They got trench players, defensive linemen, offensive linemen. They have receivers. They got their quarterback. They got corners and safeties, and they got the coaching staff and the community and the culture and the lineage and the legacy. It's Mount Carmel right now, and they're really operating at a high level, still not playing their best ball. I'm gonna continue to say that. Watching the film, still making mistakes, still turning the ball over. There's still things that they're doing that are not good, but there's a lot of things that they're doing that's great. And that's the scary part, is that I continue to watch them and see things that they can still even improve, and they're not playing their best football, and they're winning like this is going to be very difficult for anybody in 8A. I'm going to continue to say that. And Lincoln Way East, they're also balling right now. They same thing, undefeated, putting up big scores, but they're not doing it against the caliber of talent that Mount Carmel is doing it against. You know what I mean? So they're playing the St. Rita, they're playing the Naz, they play the Archbishop, who's now moved up to number 2 in the state in Ohio. So I mean, and it like it's Mount Carmel, bro. And then the talent that they have there. Quentin Burrell had a game high 101 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Emmett Dowling, who we said is on pace to break records at Mount Carmel, threw for 153 yards and 2 TDs, rushed for 56 yards and 2 scores. So they have every weapon that they need to be successful and to win. Literally every position is filled with somebody who's elite and can play at a high level, and they have depth. They have younger guys that could come in and still keep that same pace as the older guys who are elite. So I mean, this is going to be the story for the rest of the season until they get to that final game. That's just what I believe. I don't think any team comes close to beating Mount Carmel this year up until maybe that final game, which we may see Lincoln Way East, Loyola, however this thing unfolds, because all three are now 3-0, so it doesn't seem like.
Well, Loyola's the 2-0 because Loyola didn't.
Yeah, 2-0, 2-0.
All three are undefeated.
Undefeated, yep. So, however the seeding, however it happens. But it looks like now we have a true run or race for those top three. We were questionable about Loyola, but I think those questions are kind of fading away, and we'll get into that more next. But yes, it's a 3-team race right now. That's what I believe. It's a 3-team race,
and I love it. I love every bit of it. Last year, I know we went there. It's like, all right, the game of 8A, forget the state championship. The game of 8A is going to be between Loyola and Lincoln Way East. We knew that. But this year now, like you said, it's 3 teams. Mount Carmel was in 8A. Last year, I don't know if Mount Carmel would have beat Loyola if they were in 8A. You know what I mean? They didn't beat them, at the end of the season last year. So it was like going into the playoffs. And I thought Mount Carmel played a bad game last year too, I'll be honest, against Loyola. But say just hypothetically, if they were in 8A last year and they, fix some of those things that they did against Loyola, I don't think they would have beat Loyola. Like I said, Loyola was the most disciplined team I saw last year play, and they even beat Lincoln Way East more so off of being more disciplined than Lincoln Way East. But this year, that 8A playoffs is going to be something crazy because it's 3 teams essentially that could win it. I know last couple of weeks we was talking about we don't know what Loyola really has just because of how they played against Maryville, and that was a team we expected them to blow out. But they did play St. Francis this past week, and they performed. And we'll get to that a little bit more in depth. But Mount Carmel is every bit of hot as they was last. They're actually better than they were last year. Lincoln Way East is every bit of what they was last year. And Loyola is looking like they got a new class of young guys that's about to be on the same type of timing that the class that just left last year was on. So I'm excited to see how this all plays out in 8A. It's a toss-up.
Yeah, it's a toss. And then we still got our boys. We still got our boys at Sandburg who would like to be in 8A, and we talk about them possibly making a run. That may be a team that we don't consider. West. Yeah, Glenbar, York is still out there. We can't, count them out. They're still there. So I mean, it's going to be it's becoming more interesting than we thought it would be. Actually, You know what I mean? It's becoming a lot. We thought it was just going to be a 2-team race. We thought Loyola would maybe have a down year this year because they lost a lot of pieces, and it would just be a race between Lincoln Way and Mount Carmel at the end. But I can't confidently say that anymore. So I think I think 6, 7, and 8A is just got very interesting over these past 3 weeks.
100%.
Yeah, and one thing before we move on to Mount Carmel, we touched on at Brother Rice the brother thing, and one thing that we discovered from Mount Carmel is the quarterbacks, like just the lineage of quarterbacks. So you got Emmett Dowling, who's playing now, dominating, and then his brother Blaney Dowling also played, and he won a state championship. And then you got Jack Elliott, who played last year at Vanderbilt, won a state championship. His younger brother Thomas Elliott is a freshman who will be next coming up, and then you got Jordan Lynch, who's the head.
Keep going.
Yeah. So then you got Jordan Lynch who played, and then his younger brother also played, who's at NIU. He when did his Justin Lynch play?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but anyway, Justin Lynch played, and then that's Jordan Lynch's younger brother, and Jordan is the head coach now at Mount Carmel. So that short lineage of quarterbacks specifically, where it's like
I can talk from personal experience. I played with some kids from Dalton Bears, Milton Greer. was there. Then his brother, Brandon Greer, went there. Then his other brothers went there as well. So it's like, it's a constant recurring thing that's constantly happening, that they're getting that lineage of players. Is like, my brother played here, my younger brother's going to play here, my kid's going to play there. Emmett Dowling's father played there in the 90s. Man. So it was like, this is like, what do we always say? When teams are good, it's not by accident. It's a culture. You know what I mean? The fact that they have it instilled in their players that are going there, they're obviously doing something right. That, hey, not only am I going to play here, my brother's going to play here, my kids are going to play here, his kids are going to play here probably, and we're going to keep this thing going, and we're going to constantly bring it back to our alma mater, Mount Carmel, and we're going to constantly keep winning state championships, or just winning in general, even if it's not state championships. Just, we're going to continue to win. And that's one thing we talk about all the time, is culture, right? The fact that they're retaining the lineage of legacies. What we call it? Was it legacies? Is that the proper term to use?
Yeah, legacies. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love to see that, bro.
Yeah,
that is crazy. Because it was. I was like dying laughing when we was looking this up, bro. I'm looking like, wait, hold on, because we was looking up like the records at the quarterback position, and then I'm looking at it. I'm like, wait, Dowling, but wait, this is his brother? Blaney? I'm like, wait, hold on. And then I looked at Jack Elliott, and I'm like, but wait, his little brother's playing sophomores right now at Mount Carmel? What the heck? Thomas Elliott actually reached out to us saying we should do a video on him. Yeah. And we were like, all right, let's give it some time. But shoot, we probably going to be doing a video on him sooner than later, because he's going to clearly be the next one up. And he probably going to be, you think he's going to be starting next year at the QB position?
Possibly. Who knows with Mount Carmel? Like, I don't know, but it's a good chance, as a sophomore. Maybe it's a good chance. I don't know who else is there, what other juniors or underclassmen are there currently, but yeah, man, it's crazy. And we're just talking about the quarterback position. Imagine all the other positions or players we don't know about. Their brothers and dads and uncles and, all have played for Mount Carmel. So that's where you get so everybody wants to focus on the recruiting. Like, oh my God, it's the recruit. No, it's not the recruiting, because most of this is just in-house, and it's just legacy and it's lineage, and you're going to go here because I played and your uncle played and your grandfather played, and it's already set. We don't have to recruit anybody. They already know that they're coming here. So like, man, get out of here with the excuses. It's about building a community, building a culture, and there's no reason why you can't do it at your public school. It's no reason why you can't do it wherever you're at. It's not just about it being Catholic or being private or whatever other excuses you make. You can do the same thing within your community, but it just has to be a collective community effort. You have to care about that. You have to want to keep people together and build that culture. But if you don't care, it won't happen. You know what I mean? So shout out to Mount Carmel, man, and all the other schools that are doing well and doing that same type of thing, because I know it's just not Mount Carmel retaining lineage and legacy. So that's crazy. And I know Emmett, man, he gonna be like it.
I'll go ahead, my bad.
No, I was just saying about the record, because he'll be passing his brother. I think he had was it passing yards? His brother's
single season passing yards and single season passing touchdowns, I believe.
Yeah. Yep,
yeah, single season passing yards and single season passing touchdowns. That's crazy, bro.
Yep, and his brother's playing at Eastern Illinois right now. Blaney's at Eastern Illinois playing quarterback. So yeah, man, that's love, man.
Hey, I guarantee you, like a big and now and we don't know what's going on behind the curtains at Mount Carmel, right? But what we see is what we talk about is what we see on paper, right?
Right.
And obviously the video footage. But I guarantee you, their biggest pitch is family. It has to be, bro. There's no way you're able to constantly get siblings or family members or whatever over generations. This is not like a one-time, like, in the last 5 years or last decade or whatever. This is decades on top of decades on top of decades, and it constantly happens. And I guarantee you that's probably one of the biggest pitches, that they're like, yo, we're building a family here. This is a community, and we're like, you're going to go here, and then we're going to make sure that your brother that's coming up is going to be great as well for us as well. And they probably just got that main pitch is probably what makes them who they are. Is the fact that they got that family thing going on there. And like we said, the lineage is crazy, bro. Like I was literally like real life dying laughing, because I was seeing the record book and I'm like, wait, bro, why are constantly it's like brother,
all these same
brother, all these same last
names.
names. Yeah. It was so hilarious, bro. That was so funny to me. But shout out to Mount Carmel, keep bringing the brothers in, keep bringing the siblings in, keep bringing the sons in, and they're going to keep balling, they're going to keep winning. It's the reason why we talk about them all the time. Clearly they're doing something right. And one of the right things that they are doing is getting family members and legacies pouring back into Mount Carmel. So next game we want to talk about, Loyola versus St. Francis. Loyola beat St. Francis 43-21. Game was dominated by, as we mentioned earlier, their sophomores. How are we feeling about Loyola now? They didn't play last week. I don't think they had a game on their schedule last week. But they did win this game 43-21, and then they're starting off their season 2-0. First game they played was against Maryville in Indiana. Won that game as well. How are we feeling about Loyola now after this 43-21 victory?
This is the Loyola that we're expected to see. That's what I'll say. And I know we were hard on Loyola for the close, because they didn't even lose to Maryville, and we were hard on them. But it's because we hold them to a high standard. Like, y'all are Loyola, so we're expecting you to go. Not saying anything bad about Maryville, because Maryville is a great program as well. But we expected to see Loyola go to Maryville and completely dominate. Just completely dominate them. And we didn't see that. We saw a close game that almost ended in a loss for them. And it was a low-scoring game at that. The touchdowns really didn't come until the fourth quarter. But, yeah, so we just expected more. So that's what gave us, and also in addition to them losing that great group that they had, we already had some questions on would they be able to fill those roles. And so it was kind of like, okay, let's just let them get to St. Francis and we'll see, because we don't have enough information, and you do have room for a bad game, especially when it's the game that opens up the season. So now coming into St. Francis, we see them put up 43 points and we see them be explosive and dominant. It's like, okay, this is the Loyola that we've been waiting to see. This is the Loyola that will get our respect. So cool, I'm with it. And then the good thing about it is that sophomores are dominating. Sophomores are leading this team.
That's always my favorite.
And so they're going to build on this for the next 2 or 3 years. So now we can just project and say Loyola is going to be on this type of trajectory for the next 3 years. They competed for they won 3 state championships, and I think they can compete for another 4 with the group that they have now, another 3 with the group that they have now. So yeah, I mean, Jordan McKinley had a breakout performance. You know what I mean? The young sophomore athlete, I'll call him, because he lined up in some wildcat. He lined out split. He lined up as a tight end. So I'm just going to call him an athlete. And yeah, I mean, 6'3", 220 pounds, has offers from Iowa State, Nebraska, Wisconsin. So he really controlled this game. 4 total touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 receiving. So he's gonna be that guy. And I know last year we keep mentioning they lost some pieces. Well, they filled it in with definitely him. He's gonna be one of the top players in the state of Illinois going forward. He's gonna get more offers, and he looks absolutely dominant as a sophomore. You know what I mean? And then you have Matthew Lee, somebody who was being considered as the next guy up, but just not really knowing. So he had a couple series in the Maryville game. I think he had 1 or 2 in the beginning of the game, and then he came back in the fourth quarter and was able to finish the game off and, help Loyola get that W against Maryville. But he's even looking like that guy, and we was wondering who was going to replace Ryan Fitzgerald. That was the biggest question, is like, what quarterback is going to replace him? And I think they have their guy with Matthew Lee being a sophomore. So for him, he threw for 3 touchdown passes. It was his first varsity start. So what a way to start it off. And now I know that solidify his spot is like, okay, this is our guy. We're going to roll with him. So yeah, man, I mean, Loyola is Loyola. Like I can confidently say that now, like this is Loyola that we expected. This is the Loyola that we thought that we would get. So yeah, it was great to see that. It was great to see.
One thing I want to call out is that you put in here is that Loyola is now on a 13-game winning streak, with their last loss dating back to 2024 versus St. Francis.
Mm-hmm.
How ironic is that?
Yep, and that was a historic night, actually, because that was Loyola's first home game at night. It was their first night home game ever on their home field. Yep, first night home game, and St. Francis spoiled it. Yep. And so they got.
Are you talking about last year?
Yeah, last year. Yep,
last year. Okay.
It was the first night home game in St. Francis. And that's why I had St. Francis winning. I'm like, they did it last year, and I feel like Loyola was a better team last year than they are this year. So, but yeah, Loyola showed like, nah, bro, this ain't that. You know what I'm saying? We still Loyola. Don't disrespect us. So, hey, we will keep saying it. Like, you got to earn our respect. You know what I mean? We not giving nothing because what you did last year, what your brother did. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter, bro. You got to come.
It all got to translate on the field
Exactly.
eventually. So, yeah,
Yep.
you're right. But though, Loyola, I mean, and that's after, they played very well against St. Francis after having a week off. A weird time to have a week off is week 2 of the season. You play week 1. Week 1 almost at that point feels like a scrimmage and not even a real game. And then you have week 2 off. And then you come back and play very well against a St. Francis team who's been rolling as well. Was that St. Francis' first loss
Was it?
of the season? Let me check real quick.
Yeah, I believe so. 2-1. Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so and Loyola's playing pretty well. They have a very, very, very interesting matchup next week against Brother Rice. Brother Rice is undefeated, dominant in their first 3 games. Loyola is still undefeated, dominant in their first 2 wins. They got 2 wins, but they're dominant in this last game against St. Francis. That's a matchup I'm going to see. That will be opening up the Catholic League Blue play. We here, man.
Man, that's
like I said. What I say on Friday, hey, we're here. Like we're in full swing now. We're cooking now. Like everything is every bit of entertaining as I would hope it would be. To me, honestly, week 2 was just a bunch of blowouts, and it was just like, Week 3 though was like, yeah, let's get it. And next week is going to be even more of that. So how are we feeling about, just because we're here right now, how are we feeling about that matchup between Loyola and Brother Rice next week?
I think it's really going to set the tone going forward. Somebody now has to have a loss. And I think this is a great test for both teams to see how good they really are. I think so. And watching Loyola play defensively, they're good as well. They have another sophomore defensively, Rob Simmons, who had 2 interceptions in that St. Francis game. So I think Loyola's just very young, but I think that Brother Rice is more experienced and more polished, and I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. Loyola has some Division I talent on the offensive line, so they may be able to hold up a little bit better against Brother Rice's defensive line, but I don't know, because when you have 3 defensive linemen who can rush and line up in different techniques, is going to make it very difficult having, 1 or 2 guys who are good. You need about 3 or 4 that can really handle that pressure. So we'll see. It's going to be I think it's going to be a big test for Loyola just because they're so young. They're talented, but they're young. BR has been here before. These guys are seniors. They're polished. They're ready to go to the next level. So it's going to be a tough one. If I had to make a prediction on who's going to win this game, oh my God, bro. Do I go with the young guys? Can they get
I'll
it
go
done?
First. Brother Rice. I'll go first. Brother Rice. I'm on a Brother Rice wave this year, man. Like, prove me wrong. All I'm saying is, I've seen, and also we've seen more of Brother Rice this year than Loyola. Yeah. We saw a lot of Loyola last year, but like you said, it's a new team, a lot of young guys. I think it'll be a very interesting game. Brother Rice is also playing at home. I think this is their first home game of the season. Yeah, they were at St. Rita last week. They were at Marist the week before. They was at Valparaiso the week before that. So they're opening up their home game. Open up with a home game, and I got the Crusaders, man. The Crusaders are rolling, and I'm also biased to the Crusaders as well because my older brothers went there. But I got Brother Rice in this game, man. Like you said, Loyola got some young guys. Maybe Brother Rice beats them at home with a little bit more, with having a little bit more experienced team as well. So.
Man, I think that's what makes it tough, is that BR is at home, and you're expecting these young guys to go in BR's house, beat them, these seniors, Division I prospects. It seems very unlikely, but I'm gonna roll with the young boys. I'm gonna roll, and Loyola make a statement. Imagine that Loyola go into BR, they're at home, and they defeat them. That's a huge statement win for Loyola. And it's like, okay, we not playing. We getting back to the 80. People think they counting us out because we young, we lost some talent, but no, we're still the Loyola Academy that has won 3 state championships. let's not act like this is a reigning 3-time state championship program. All right, and I think we kind of taking that for granted a little bit. So I think we gotta all right. And they on a 13-game win streak, so I get it. Even though they're not the same team, they are the same program. So I think Loyola goes in there and makes a statement win with the young guys and show the state hey, we gonna be here for another 2-3 years. We ain't lost nothing. So I'm a roll with the young boys.
Yeah, forget that. I hear that 13-game winning streak, three-time state champion, three-peating state champion. But I'm rolling with BR, man. I hear all of that, but I'm rolling with BR this game. But yeah, hey, we'll see. That's why I like doing these predictions. I can either be right or wrong. I can only be two things, right or wrong. So
I will say this though. If BR goes into next week and they roll Loyola, I'll agree with you that they are winning 7-8. I will take that stance with you. I will, bro.
It's a good way to be battle tested.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough. I haven't seen enough to have be like a clear 7-8 winner, at least for me. I haven't seen enough. But if Brother Rice goes in there and it's not a close game, like they roll them, pack it up 7-8. That'll be all I need to see.
And this is if you're a BR in this situation too, you're happy to have a game like this in week 4 because not only you started off 3-0, right? You played 2 Catholic League teams so far now. You're playing another Catholic League team this week and reigning 3-peating state champion. You want a game like this because you're not going to see them in the playoffs. You know what I mean? You're going to see a St. Rita in the playoffs. You're going to see Batavia, Downers Grove North or whatever. You're not going to see this team. So be able to play against the reigning 8A state champions for the last 3 years early in the season to be battle tested. That's a game you want to have early in the season, especially with starting off undefeated. You really want to test your theory and build that confidence. Like, are we for real or do we got a lot more work to do? Obviously, early in the season, and you probably still have a lot more work to do. But being battle tested this early, starting off 3-0, and really, coming in this game with confidence, playing at home. If I'm Brother Rice, I'm happy to play this game. And even if you don't come out victorious, it's gonna be a lot you can take away from this game. All right, this is our first time matching up against a team that is notoriously wins state in 8A. How do we face off against a team that could potentially win state in 8A this year? How do we face off against this team? How do we match up against this team? And I think they're going to match up pretty well. I think they already on paper match up pretty well. And I think personally,
on paper they're better.
I think so too. I think so too. But Loyola is Loyola, and they, like you mentioned, they got a lot of young guys that's doing it good for them. But we'll see. That's going to be my game of the week. Last week, my game of the week was between St. Rita and Brother Rice. This week, my game of the week is between Brother Rice and Loyola. So we'll see.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. For me.
What?
For me.
No, for me.
Game of the week. Yeah.
I'm talking about for me. For me, my game of the week next week is between Brother Rice and Loyola. I know who your game of the week is next week, but we'll get to that a little bit. But before we jump into that game, actually, before we get to more of the games of next week, one thing I want to do, a couple things. Going back to St. Francis, shout out Brock Phillip. He did throw for 300 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. So keep balling, Brock. You played a good Loyola team, but y'all play St. Rita next week, I believe. So, St. Rita next week on Friday at 7:30. So ball in that game. That's going to be a good matchup to see next week between those two teams. But East St. Louis versus a team out of state in Nevada, Bishop Gorman. They did end up losing that game 35-10. Bishop Gorman is the number 1 team in Nevada, and currently, based on Max Preps, they are the number 3 team in the nation. And East St. Louis lost to them 35-10.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on East St. Louis? Or either team, or the game in general?
So the game, it kind of reminded me of their start to the Virgin Catholic game. It's like they had a slow start. It was extremely slow. And that's just something that I'm noticing. And I don't know what's kind of going on, but it seems like offensively it's slow. It's slow. Defensively it's holding up. Defensively is showing they're showing good things in their secondary, linebackers, D-line. Like they're operating very well defensively, but it just seems like offensively something is different. And still, again, to this week, they're still run heavy. I know last week the first week when they played in New Jersey, people were saying like it was heavy winds or something like that. That's why the game plan was running. I don't know how true that is, but they kind of showed those same signs this game where it was kind of run heavy and didn't really see much explosive offense down the field. But I mean, still, making some mistakes, getting some penalties that they don't need, special teams mistakes. I believe they gave up a 97-yard kick return, and then they had a punt blocked, and it's just some of those same mistakes that kind of was the reason for their outcome with Bergen Catholic, is just making those mistakes. So I mean, you have to look at this through two lenses, right? They're 0-2, but they're 0-2. Well,
technically they're 1-2, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, games that they've played. So they're 0-2 and games actually played. They're 0-2. And in those two games, they lost to the number 15 team in the country, Bergen Catholic, and they just lost to the number 2 or number 3 team, whatever ranking you're looking at, in Bishop Gorman in the country. So you're playing two top 20 teams, and you're not playing your best football, and you're still holding your own. So it's not like East St. Louis is a bad team, but it's just about what lens are you looking through. From a national lens, it's like, okay, they aren't playing that well. But from a state lens of the state of Illinois, there's no team that's doing what they're doing. First of all, I wanted to do this. I wanted to look up how many miles that they've traveled in these two games. Like that's something to account for. Like they're going across the country to play football. Nobody's traveling. Like if you play and you travel, you know how difficult that is. So just taking a 10-15 minute bus ride is not like taking a couple hours, 8-9 hours, or however long it's gonna take you to get to New Jersey, get to Las Vegas. Like, so they're playing a tough schedule. But they are the most battle tested in the state. There's no team in the state that has played tougher competition than East St. Louis. No team in the state that's traveled longer than East St. Louis. It's no excuses. It's just what lens are you looking at it through? So go ahead.
I want to say this. So similar to Loyola, they didn't play a game in week 2 because the team that they were originally going to play forfeited, a team based out of Florida. That they was going to actually play at home, so they wouldn't even have to have traveled for that game. But then they did in week 1 play Bergen Catholic, number 1 team in New Jersey, and the number 15 team ranked based on max preps in the nation. Lost a close one in that one. You know what I mean? First game of the season. And then that's tough to do, to travel to New Jersey, right? Then come home and expect to play a game and actually have that week off, and then having that week off, go fly to Nevada to play arguably could be the number 1 team in the nation. Obviously the number 1 team in the state of Nevada, but arguably could be argued that they're the number 1 team in the nation in Bishop Gorman. And that's tough at the beginning of the season. But one thing I will say, they won't have to see these teams in the playoffs, clearly, because they're not in state. How they face up against these Illinois teams, they've already been battle tested. They're more battle tested than anybody. And they still are going to play IMG later on in the season. So they're going to be back playing some Illinois teams this week. But I currently would have to say Mount Carmel's probably the number 1 team in the state. Just because I think they're just playing better.
Yeah.
But East St. Louis, we won't even be able to officially say who is the number 1 or whatever, because they won't even see each other this year.
Yeah.
But East St. Louis, I expect them to dominate the state of Illinois.
Yeah,
we'll see though. You did mention there's some things they got to clean up on the offense.
Yeah. That's all it is. Just the penalties, and it just seems like I from me watching them, because I've watched both games, it's just getting a flow offensively. Like, I think they're still trying to figure it out. I think they got a bunch of new guys, and so they're really just trying to figure it out, get the chemistry going. That's just what it looks like. It looks like a little bit of lack of chemistry within the offense and the players. And so I just think it's just something they have to work towards, and that's normal when you have new players. And so it just is what it is. But they have the talent, of course, and I don't see them having any issues going forward. But I mean, for them to go and play literally, which I believe is going to be come out once the rankings get updated, Bishop Gorman is going to be the number one team in the country, because Mater Dei just lost to Centennial, and Mater Dei was the number one team in the country. And so I think that'll move up, that'll move the rankings. They'll probably move down, but Bishop Gorman to go up. And Mater Dei, I think they were on a 15-game win streak, and it was snapped back by Centennial. So yeah, those national rankings will be updated. But you got East St. Louis, that they played the best team in the country, and they didn't play well, and 35-10. So yeah, you lost, but there's still some good signs there. Kind of how I talk about with Mount Carmel. They aren't playing their best football, and they're still dominating. East St. Louis is nowhere near where they need to be as far as like the East St. Louis that we know. And I think they get there by the end of the season. Like, it's no doubt about it in my mind. I'm not concerned at all. It's just like I said, what lens are you looking through? Like, they're doing something nobody else is doing. So you kind of got to separate that from everything else. Like, that's just East St. Louis playing. They have the 10th Max Preps rated their schedule as the 10th hardest schedule in the country. Like, that's something you got to consider. Like, if you're going into it that way, I'm sure East St. Louis could have scheduled anybody else and been 2-0 right now and put up 80, 90 points. But I think they need to be tested. They needed to be battle tested, and that's exactly what they got. So, man, it's hard to evaluate them and make an assessment on East St. Louis just because this is like, some outlier stuff. But they'll be fine. They'll be good. You'll see. Once conference play comes and they play back in Illinois, we'll probably see scores of 50-0, 60-12, some stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I've been saying the whole episode is super early in the season. Got a lot more season left to go. They will be playing Alton next week, which is opening up conference play for them. And they'll be playing them on Friday at Alton. But yeah, East St. Louis is East St. Louis, and we'll see how they face off or fare in the state and how they match up in the state. So, but East St. Louis is East St. Louis. Playing, top teams in the nation is hard for anybody traveling. It's hard for anybody, especially kids, and also having that, week off, and coming back and having to play the top team, arguably the top team in the nation. It's tough to do. Yeah. But we'll be paying attention to those boys down south over, do they consider themselves over east in their area? Probably east side.
Yeah, east side.
Yeah. But we'll be paying attention to them all season. Definitely with Myson in the backfield and stuff like that. So, but that is all the games that we were paying attention to this week. It's time to look forward to next week. Drum roll. There are a lot of games that are happening next week. I actually added some more while you was speaking about East St. Louis a little bit, FA. One game we mentioned was Loyola Brother Rice. Loyola is playing at Brother Rice. I already said that I have Brother Rice winning that game. You already said you have Loyola winning that game. I don't think we need to discuss that any further. But definitely a great game that will be good to watch next week. I think, is this your game of the week? Right here?
This is my game of the week.
Well, FA's game of the week is between, and this is a game that we talked about like months ago before the season even started.
Talking about it last year.
Yeah, we were talking about it last year, that it should have happened last year, right?
Yep.
And that game is between the Whitney Young Dolphins and the Morgan Park Mustangs. That game will be played on Friday at Gately. I know we were messaging Val Warner about it. Whitney Young is off to a pretty good start, 3-0. They've been dominating teams. They got Max Warner in the backfield. We covered Max for his commitment day. How are we feeling about this game? This is one of the games that Max said that he was looking forward to, obviously, outside of the game that's going to be played on his birthday. But who we think will win this game between, essentially last year, Whitney Young was undefeated and they was the number one seeded team in Class 7A, and Morgan Park went undefeated against the Chicago teams, and they were the number one seed in Class 5A last year for the state playoffs, and they didn't play each other last year. Whitney Young was able to play Kenwood twice and ended up beating Kenwood in the city championship, but also in the regular season as well. How we feeling about this matchup?
Man, so this is the most anticipated game for me since last year, because I just couldn't understand how there's a conference championship crown, but the two best teams in the conference don't play each other. So obviously, two completely different teams from last year. It's not the two teams from last year. Guys have graduated, completely different teams, but they still get to face off. I do think this is probably the biggest game in Chicago Public League this season, even though it's some build up around some other games now that, Kenwood is kind of looking, like the top of the CPL. You still got Simeon, you still got Morgan Park, of course, Whitney Young. But it's just, for me, it's most anticipated because we get to see who was that better team in a sense. Not necessarily, but in a sense we do. But it's going to be interesting because Morgan Park is not the Morgan Park that was last year, that they were last year. Obviously, a lot of things
as
have
far
changed.
as all the talent.
As far as the talent that's moved on, obviously. So they've played, and I think this is going to be the big difference, is that sort of how we just spoke about East St. Louis and their opening schedule. Morgan Park really went out of their way to be extremely battle tested in those first two games in the season. And I think that was done on purpose just because they know that things are changing. They got some new guys out there and they need to be battle tested. They need to see who these guys are. Obviously you have some returners, but for the most part you got some new players who taking on starting roles. So you want to see what you're made of. You want to see who you are. And I think they've gotten a chance to see exactly who they are and the things that they need to work on. And then on another hand, for Whitney Young, I can't say the same thing.
They haven't been battle, and just calling it straight out as it is, they haven't been nearly as battle tested as Morgan Park.
No. So do you have their schedule?
I have
right now?
I have their schedule up right here.
Who do they? I believe they played Carver and who?
They played Carver the first week. They won 41-0, and then they played I'm sorry, it's abbreviated. Perspectives Leadership. The second week they won that game 41-14, and then they just played Westinghouse this past week, won that game 42-0. So they've been putting up a lot of points, but at the same time, they're not really playing nobody. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like they're not really playing nobody. But that's not a knock to them. Like, everything that I say, right, is that who they're lined up against, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Like, they're playing these teams that aren't as good as the teams that Morgan Park has played, but they're not in close ones against them. They're blowing them out. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? So it would definitely be a good test for them. This is going to be their first test for them for sure next week against Morgan Park. But like you said, on the flip side, Morgan Park went out of their way to purposely play these top teams. They played the reigning 5A state champions in Nazareth this last week. 2 weeks ago, sorry. But then they also played, a team that went to the semifinals in 7A last year in Downers Grove North. Did they go to this? Yeah.
They lost to Batavia.
They played Batavia, yeah. So, and they had a good, even though they lost that game against Downers Grove North, that was a game. If that touchdown does not get called back, that's a game they probably would have won.
Yeah.
So they could have been sitting here, you know what I'm saying, 2-1 instead of 1-2. They did handle business last week, winning their game against the Bulls?
Bulls College Prep.
Yeah, Bulls College Prep. So it's gonna be a good one for them to see. And like you said, they haven't played anybody outside of Bulls College Prep in Chicago yet. They haven't really, played anybody. So we're gonna see how they match up for real when they play Whitney Young, and we're gonna see how Whitney Young. Are they for real, or is it just gonna be?
Yeah. And I think in this sense, I don't want to use the word hurt Whitney Young by not, having more challenging games in the opening weeks, but it's definitely going to be different going into a game where now you're going to get hit in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? And you don't know who you are yet. At least Morgan Park, they've been punished, in the last 3 weeks. And they, obviously now look at them against Bulls College Prep. They come out and dominate, which they were supposed to do. But I mean, it's hard adjusting to getting hit in the moment. at least, for Morgan Park, they took those losses, they've dealt with it, they understand what they need to do, and now if it happens in the game, they'll do a better job adjusting to it. Versus Whitney Young, if Morgan Park come out firing and they like, oh, what's going on? Like, we used to being able to run the ball at will, we used to being able to do these things at will, and it's taken away. Now you have to figure out who you are in that moment, and that's way more difficult. But I think a lot of Whitney Young's success has come from Max and his play on offense and defense. The one thing I will say is Morgan Park's defense and defensive line is great, and I think they take the run away perfectly. I think they take the run away, and I think Whitney Young is going to struggle because even those guys in the secondary, when you start trying to throw the ball, is going to be difficult. So I'm just not sure Whitney Young has the weapons to compete with Morgan Park, because defensively, I think they'll do a good job trying to contain Max. I think he'll get his, though. When you're a Division I player, when you're an elite athlete, you find a way to get yours regardless. But I think they kind of contain him a little bit, and he don't just break out for 300 rushing yards and 3-4 touchdowns and he wins them the game. I think he'll still be able to be productive, but I really think the Morgan Park defense holds up. And now the question is now on Morgan Park's offense. Can Morgan Park offense get something going and get some rhythm and flow going? I know Nazir in the last game against Bulls College Prep, he was taking some snaps, which I told you would probably end up happening, because you got to get your best player the ball and put it right in his hands and let him let your playmaker make plays. So I knew that probably would happen at some point in the season. So Morgan Park has the weapons everywhere. It's just about kind of putting it together. And what was the score for Bulls College Prep from Morgan Park this past week?
A lot to a little. Let me pull that up real quick. But it was a lot.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Bulls College Prep scored. Let me check though real quick. 40-0. Yep.
40-0. So yep. You put up 40 points. You put up 40 points, and that's a good sign. Is that against a team that you should beat, you put up 40 points. So I think this game depends on, because I think Morgan Park is going to win simply because they've been battle tested. They have a really good defensive line, got some Division I talent on that defensive line. I think they'll be able to contain a run a lot better than all of the teams that Whitney Young has played. And just that adjustment on the fly, like adjusting to the adjustment, is what's going to be the key for Whitney Young. Like, once Morgan Park stops this, are you going to be able to go to something else, which I am not. I don't know if they'll be able to. But and then on Morgan Park's end, the key for them is offensive efficiency. Like, can they get some momentum going offensively and strike and score touchdowns and it be polished and not make mistakes, getting a lot of penalties. So I'm going to go with Morgan Park for those reasons. But, hey, we'll see how it happens. But I'm going to go MP.
I will go MP in this game, too, just because they have been more battle-tested. And I like the way they faced off against DGN, although they didn't play their best game offensively. I think the fact that they have been battle-tested gives them an advantage. That's just my honest opinion. But I don't think it would be a blowout. I think it would be a close one. I think it would be a good one. But happy to see that this matchup is actually happening this year. So Morgan Park and Whitney Young will be facing off at Gately on Friday. We'll be getting out to that game. Another one, extra games I want to bring up: St. Rita versus St. Francis. St. Francis just lost last week to Loyola. St. Rita just lost to Brother Rice, and they also lost to Mount Carmel the week before, so they're currently on a 2-game losing streak. But I think this will be a good matchup. Who you got between these two teams?
Man, I feel like they're so evenly matched. I like both teams, and they're really evenly matched. I mean, you got Steven Armbruster from St. Rita, great quarterback. Then you got Brock Phillip on St. Francis' side, two really good quarterbacks facing off. Two teams that need to win. I think this is a must-win game for both teams. St. Rita coming off a loss to Brother Rice and St. Francis.
Probably more of a must-win for St. Rita though.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Because St. Francis that's their first loss to Loyola. So
yeah,
St. Rita's
going
1 and 2.
A second loss, then it'll be their second loss. So I mean, it's a game that both teams will want to win.
100%.
Just from what we've seen, I mean, this is really tough for me to call, to be completely honest, because I think this is an evenly matched. Two evenly matched teams, and it'll really be a toss up for me. Like, if I choose one, it's not because I have any definitive evidence or any real reason behind it. You know, it's just really a toss up for me. This is one of those games, and man, I just really, man, I don't know, man. I can't call it. I can't call it.
I'm going to pick St. Rita, and for one reason and one reason only. I think they've been more battle tested. It's the same reason why I'm picking MP. St. Francis hasn't played no scrubs either. You know, they played Kenwood week 1. They played Kenwood week 1. They played Loyola last week. But I think playing Mount Carmel and then coming back and playing Brother Rice the following week, I think that's being more battle tested in my honest opinion.
It is.
So I would say, and I would think St. Rita will have more of the hunger to win. If I'm being honest, they're 1-2. They just lost, you know, to 2 tough opponents, but they did win week 1 against Marist in a close one. I think they're gonna have something to prove. Like I said, I still think St. Rita is one of the best in 7A, and I still think that, you know, they got a lot of work to do, obviously. But I think they will bounce back with a win against St. Francis, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we will see. We'll see. Last game I want to bring up. This is actually a very good matchup.
Yeah.
Downers Grove North is going to be at DGN. Downers Grove North is going to be at Glenboro West next week on Saturday at 1:30. Facing off at 1:30. We saw Downers Grove North play against Morgan Park. They have started their season off 3-0. Glenboro West, we seen them play against Joliet Catholic. I believe they are also 3-0. Let me check that real quick to make sure that I am accurate in saying that. Yep, so the hitters are 3-0. And they'll be facing each other next week. How are we feeling about this matchup? This is actually a pretty exciting matchup that I'm happy to see. Downers Grove North, Glenboro West may want to get out to this game as well. They're at Glenboro West, so Glenboro West has one of the, you know, one of our favorite fields.
I think
you think it's the best because it's grass.
The best is grass. It's got the backdrop with the water. You walk down the hill. It feels the most like a college atmosphere than any other place that I've been to.
Think so?
I think so. I think Glenboro West is the best football field in the state of Illinois. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So with them being young, being home, not young, with them being at home, do you got them in this game? You got Glenboro West in this game over DGN? I do have Glenboro West over DGN. Like I said, you think they win big?
Yeah.
That's a statement right there. Yeah, okay.
I think Glenboro West wins big. I mean, they watching them play, they have the talent to win this game. And watching DGN play and how their play style, because DGN has some talent. Don't get me wrong. Owen, the Minnesota commit, really good player. But watching Glenboro West play, they're explosive. You know what I mean? They can run it up on you. So I just think their play style, it could get out of hand real quick. And I do think that they have the talent offensively to really, this game is going to be high scoring. I think Glenboro West wins this game big. I'm not going to lie to you. Glenboro West is extremely explosive. They have a really good defense who's also explosive. They'll make you turn the ball over. They got big hitters, secondary flying around to the ball, taking away possessions from you. Glenboro West is a good athletic team. And that's the biggest thing. Athletic is what I mean. They're not a run heavy. They have athletes and they have big play capabilities. I haven't seen that much big play capability from Downers Grove North, at least against those quality competition. Obviously, Glenboro West did it against JC. They did it against Batavia, you know. So I think Glenboro West wins big here. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not gonna go as far as say big, but I do think they win this game. It's weird. Downers Grove North, outside of their victory in week 2 against Downers Grove South, 55-14, they haven't put up that much points.
Yeah, and that's what
week 1 they beat. That's what I'm saying. Week 1 they beat Morgan Park 11-8, and that was off a field goal kick as time expired. This past week they played Hinsdale Central. They won 9-7, very low scoring game. And us seeing, Glenboro West on the flip side, we seen Glenboro West play against Batavia 31-28. You know what I mean? They put up points against JCA. You know what I mean? So it's like they have, like you said, a very skilled offense. And I see them putting up a lot of points. I won't go jump the gun as far as heads and say I think they'll blow them out. But I do think they will win that game. And I believe Glenboro West is the better team overall, just because we've seen both of them play. We have the full game highlights between Downers Grove North and Morgan Park, and we also have the full game highlights between Glenbard West and Joliet Catholic. And Glenbard West, to me, is the better team for sure. Yeah. And they're playing at home. At home. That's always an advantage, in my opinion, especially in high school football. So, but yeah, that's our matchups for next week. Sorry for the matchups that we did not mention. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more that we didn't discuss, but we'll be paying attention to all of those. Week 3 was electric. It was a bunch of late game field goal kicks and 2-point conversions, for teams to win. But hopefully week 4 is going to be just as, and probably even better than last week. But we are in full swing for sure. The season is really starting to shape, and we're starting to really understand what teams are going to be where and certain things and how certain things are going to play out. And some teams got a lot of work to be done, off to a slow start. I know JCA, we mentioned, has not gotten their first win of the season yet, but still a lot more season left to be played. I know St. Rita's off to a slow start. Mary's doesn't have a win as well either. But then we also mentioned a lot of teams that are starting off undefeated. Brother Rice, Loyola, Mount Carmel, Lincoln Way East, Glenbard West, Montini Catholic, Fenwick, Oak Forest, Oakland, Sandburg. So shout out to all the teams that's off to a good start, very hot start. But I do want to say this: a lot more work to be done. It's very early in the season. Obviously, build on that confidence, build off these wins, but don't think that this is it. It's a lot more season to go. And then once you play those 9 games, there's a whole nother season to be played. So keep balling out this season. Keep going. For the teams that don't have wins, keep going. Still early in the season. And for the teams that's, off to a hot start, keep going. And this is you got anything else you want to bring up, FA, or talk about? Man, actually, one thing I want to talk about, because we was talking about it a little bit, and I just want to bring it up for the clips. The Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez fight. I had Terrence Crawford winning, even with him jumping up in weight class to fight Canelo Alvarez.
Man.
Bud Crawford, man.
Man, bro.
Whooping feet.
Yeah, bro. I wasn't expecting that type of fight. I wasn't expecting Bud to outbox.
Outclass him.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that at all. And then with the weight class, everybody was thinking that it was going to be a power difference and he was probably going to dominate them in that aspect, but it didn't happen that way. Like Bud was the more polished fighter that night, and also just countering and being on the offensive end of it as well. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, it was an amazing performance from Bud, man. Undisputed. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, bro, that was a good one, man. But the only thing I'm curious about is, like, going forward, it's like, damn, man, boxing is really dying, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Boxing is because there's not much left out there. Like, what else from a time where it was multiple big fights? Like, I mean, we're towards the ends of, like, who else do we want to see? Like, do they both retire after this? Like, or do they continue to fight? And if they do, who are they fighting? So I don't know.
The one thing that I respect about Bud and Canelo, they're not afraid to fight people. I feel like a little bit in Floyd's career, probably the tail end of his career, he was very picky, and rightfully so. He was very picky in his opponents. But he still fought those big matches. Floyd actually fought Canelo when Canelo was 23 and gave Canelo his first loss, and then Canelo lost to Dimitri, I can't pronounce his last name, Petrov or whatever, to get his second loss. And then now this is his third loss coming against Bud Crawford. But Bud, still undefeated, man. Yeah. Some may argue he may be better than Floyd Mayweather. I won't go as far as say that. But him fighting Canelo Alvarez looked every bit of when Floyd Mayweather fought Canelo Alvarez when we were in high school.
Yeah.
He just outclassed him. It wasn't, and clearly Canelo's the bigger fighter, right? Clearly Canelo's the more powerful puncher. Clearly. But what Floyd beat Canelo on was speed and being more, polished fighter, and that's the same way Terrence Crawford won. He's very much quicker. He was way quicker than Canelo, but he was just more polished. You mentioned the counters. It was ducking and hitting him and stuff. And Canelo, you can even see a slow motion. Canelo had one little good hit off a counter, and he just looked like this motherfucker is. And the thing that I like about Canelo in the press conference, he tells you exactly what was going on in the fight. He was like, he was very quick. I didn't know he was that fast.
Yeah.
I did not know he was that fast.
Yeah. And he compared him to Floyd.
To Floyd. And he even said, Canelo fought both of them. Although he did fight Floyd when he was probably the more inexperienced fighter. But coming into this fight against Bud Crawford, he is probably the more experienced fighter than Bud Crawford, even though he's 2 years younger. He just has more fights under his belt. I think Canelo has well over 60. Bud has a little bit over 40. But he mentioned that Bud is probably better than Floyd Mayweather. He probably was the better, at least at that night, he felt that Bud was better than Floyd Mayweather. And clearly Bud is one of the best fighters in, I would consider Floyd our generation, but Bud is probably our generation too, ever. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And he faced off against, great opponents. He, beat Errol Spence Jr. down. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he's beat people in many different weight classes. You know what I mean? Like, he jumped up to fight Canelo and took Canelo's belt.
And usually, and usually that's not a good thing. Like, usually like a fighter will come down, but for you to go up to somebody, it's a difficult fight. So it didn't look like he went up. But yeah, that was man, how I spoke to earlier is about adjusting to the adjustments and being a good fighter, and him being a switch stance fighter, and he could do. It's just he's just a better fighter that night. So hey man, great fight.
Probably the better fighter overall.
I just wonder what's next. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised
if he's gonna take some time off, maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I don't know. I feel like that fight was convincing enough that it didn't need a rematch.
No, I'm maybe if it was a rematch, I'm just
I don't think it makes sense to get a rematch because he won by unanimous decision. So I don't even think it makes sense for a rematch. So you're right. What's next? I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires after it. Will he? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
37. I mean, he is up there in age, 37.
Yeah.
He did just beat the biggest fighter in the world. He's beaten everybody that was essentially the best fighter in his weight class, and he even jumped up the weight class to, fight Canelo. So, I mean, what is next? But we'll see.
Yeah, and I know Canelo was saying the same thing. He was saying, like, his legacy is already cemented in boxing. There's nothing else that he needs to do. And, if a rematch happens, it happens. But it's not something that, he really pushing for or nothing like that. So, I mean, it was cool, man. I enjoyed that. But, I wonder,
love when greats fighting the greats.
Man, I mean, yeah, definitely. And that's what I was just getting at earlier, just like, what is next as far as our greats, and what do we have to look forward to? You know what I mean? Like, what's that next generation of fighters that are going to make us tune in? Because a lot of the fighters that we want to see are kind of older. I mean, you still got Shakur out there. You still got Javante out there, but it's not not legendary
Garcia,
like the guys we talking about. Yeah, but
we'll probably see another Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney matchup. Eventually, we'll probably see another one of those. But what's next in boxing? I don't know. I used to follow boxing a lot closer when I was younger, but now I just follow the bigger fights now. But so I don't know what's next in that sport. I know outside of those weird matches between like a Mike Tyson and a Floyd Mayweather, why a Jake Paul versus whoever. Yeah. Those are the ones that seem to be more
and that just lets you
talked
know,
about
like,
now.
Yeah, and that's what, and I mean, you would have to use the word evolve in this case, but that's what boxing has kind of evolved into. It's more of the entertainment and not competitive. Like, and they're getting more money to be entertainment fighters than competitive fighters. So it's like, if this is what the people want to see, then I'll go do it and go fight an exhibition.
Content creator fighters.
Yeah. Exactly, which I hate that the sport has done that, but there was no real advancement in the competitive aspect of the sport, so it kind of got turned into this other show where it's like, all right, Jake Paul, I'm gonna go fight these older fighters and whatever. It's just like, dude, come on, man. And then you got Mike Tyson fighting Roy Jones and all of this stuff. It's just like it's kind of a mockery of the sport in a sense, because
and then he fought Jake Paul too, right?
Huh?
Mike Tyson fought Jake Paul too, right?
Jake Paul, yeah, he did, yeah. So it's just. I mean, I think there's some new, but I believe Dana White from the UFC was saying that he wanted to do kind of like another series like he did with the UFC, like building up talent for the sport of boxing. So I know that he, plan to do some stuff with boxing. I was hearing in some of the press conferences. So maybe somebody brings something new to the sport of boxing and a new style or some type of way that kind of rebuilds the fan base and, the fighters, and we kind of get back, because it's like one of America's sports. It's a part of the American culture, is like boxing. Like, we all gonna tune in to the big boxing matches, even if you don't know who the hell fighting it, for the people who not following it. If it's a fight on, everybody gonna watch it. So yeah, hopefully it's something that could happen that revives the sport, because it's definitely, not what it used to be.
Yeah. I don't know what's next in the sport of boxing as far as the big matchup, but I do know what's next for me today. I'm going to go ahead and go home. Oh, I'm already home, but I'm going to go in and turn on the Chicago Bears. Right now, when I last checked, they were losing to the Detroit Lions. They are still losing to the Detroit Lions in the second quarter, 14-7.
Uh-oh.
Hey, man.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna have to dissect that. I'm gonna be dissecting that game later and probably post some reels of it. But go Bears, the Bears. Anything else you want to get into before we close this episode out? We've been going for an hour and a half. Damn, I feel like we go longer every week.
Yeah, we just have more and more to talk about. But we gonna see, man.
Shout out to Fighting Illini.
Oh yeah, big, clear win over Western Michigan. Expected win over Western Michigan. They're gonna be tested a little more in the following weeks with Indiana coming up. USC's coming up for them. So yeah, they're looking good, man. They're looking good.
Yep, they play Indiana next week, and then they play USC the following week, and then I know they're going to be playing Ohio State and Purdue as well. So
that's the one.
Shout out to Fighting Illini. Keep rolling, keep going. Yeah. But
man.
Outside of that,
get
to these Bears. But outside of that, all of the high school kids keep balling as well. Going to definitely be uncovering everything next week again. So tune into the off-season podcast again next week. We'll be talking about everything that happened that week. But this is the off-season podcast, episode 36, I believe. And we are out.